So, a bit of WWE news that a lot of people have been talking about, and I'm sure a lot of people are happy about, because it looks like they got the Christmas trees already for the day. But anyway, a little bit of news while I wait for my bus. I think I got about, as I look here, hold on. Got about 30 minutes or so, 33 minutes. But anyway, the news that a lot of people are talking about, in the past past 24 hours or so, if not the past 48, 72 hours, let's say 24 to 72 hours, when it comes to WWE, is not the potential of CM Punk showing up, no. But the fact that WWE is scaling back on a lot of its gimmicky pay-per-views and only focusing on those that kind of, share an importance when it comes to certain major events, as well as bring back possible pay-per-views that share an importance when it comes to basically pushing and elevating the future top stars in the industry, future world champions, if you will. And that would be the fact, the news that is, would be the fact that WWE in February is bringing back not only Elimination Chamber as a pay-per-view, pretty much North American, Canadian, American stateside, if you will, countryside. It's still in Canada, so technically still North America, but in Quebec, Canada, that is, Montreal, Quebec. Not only are they bringing it back, like I said, but as I just mentioned, they're bringing it back for the first time to Montreal, period. Basically, Montreal is going to get a pay-per-view or a premium live event for the first time in about 14 years. And it's the pay-per-view that's before WrestleMania. And just like the Royal Rumble, over the past several years, depending on where it's positioned, mostly around February or March before Rumble, basically it kind of determines who's going to be challenging in one of the main events, or at least one of the chambers is going to be a match where the winner will go on to Mania and challenge for a title. Now, that's great news and everything, and obviously everybody knows that if you're going to be in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the two likely people you got to push when it comes to the possible chamber match or giving them a possible moment to shine in the home country is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So obviously there's going to be a lot of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens supporters, family and friends there, but will they be there to see them compete against each other in the Elimination Chamber for a shot at potentially one of the undisputed championships that Roman has at WrestleMania? Or are they setting them up? Are they setting them up to challenge for the tag team titles against the Usos, at Elimination Chamber? Are they doing that? Are they setting them up to challenge the Usos at Elimination Chamber? To me, that would be the most likely scenario. It would be that you would have basically, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens competing in at least one of the main event matches of the night, which could be for the tag team titles, because that's what everybody is projecting them to go for at Elimination Chamber. But why have them go for it so soon at a pay-per-view that's before WrestleMania? Again, it's real simple. It's the hometown. What better way for them to challenge for the championship than in the hometown and win it and have a moment right there that, they've been dreaming of having since they've been kids, together. So, yeah, WWE is bringing Elimination Chamber to Montreal, Quebec. And it's going to be really interesting, ladies and gentlemen, to see how a lot of certain talent that is praised right now and beloved by the WWE universe, the fans, stateside and in parts of Canada, certain parts of Canada, how they're going to be received in Montreal. Like, how is Cody Rhodes going to get received? How is Bray Wyatt going to get received? How is, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, and so on. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, the list could go on. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets more, of a positive reaction outside of the native, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. It's going to be interesting to see who gets that reaction outside of them. And again, when it comes to Elimination Chamber, you have to believe that they got to be putting Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in some featured matchups when it comes to that event, whether it's in the chamber itself, or it's in a tag team title match against the Usos. We'll have to see. We will have to see. But with that said, though, it's not the only pay-per-view that, of course, is coming back, but being brought to Montreal for the first time in a long time, almost over a decade, the first premium live event pay-per-view in about 14, 15 years. But there's a pay-per-view event that's going to possibly making its return for the first time in 21 years, possibly, in over 20 years. And that pay-per-view is King of the Ring. The last official King of the Ring pay-per-view was 2002, where Brock Lesnar won. After that, it just became a gimmicky event that they would do on occasions, for several weeks on SmackDown or Raw, on both, if you will, or even as a one-night deal on either show. The last King of the Ring tournament that happened was a weekly deal between, between both shows, I'm not really sure, but it was won by Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods was the recent King of the Ring. But it didn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Yes, Xavier, I think, later on would challenge for the Universal Championship and get squashed, but still, it didn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Xavier Woods, Austin Creed is already elevated. He is at a point to where he is good to go. Like, if he wanted to hang it up now, he'd be fine. He'd be more than fine. Yes, he's the only member of the New Day not to be champion, not to be WWE champion, Universal champion, but he's gotten his shot. But even if he never does win that title, the thing is, he's set for life. He's fine. He's good. But when it comes to King of the Ring, though, as its own premium live event, possibly next year, replacing the likes of, let's say, Money in the Bank, maybe, or I wouldn't say Money in the Bank would get replaced, but basically taking the place of something like, let's say, Day One, or at least, Day One, of course, as we know, is canceled for good. It's no longer going to be a thing, and that takes out one event out of the calendar year, so they need to replace it. And what would they replace it with? Well, what better event to replace it with than the King of the Ring event? And I could see them doing it, as a premium live event again, and making it more important than it's ever been. And, with Triple H running things right now, more than anybody, he understands what King of the Ring is about, because even though originally he was supposed to win the event in '96, but then that got screwed up because of, the curtain call, Austin ended up winning it instead, and Hunter won it the year after. Still, Triple H knows the importance of this event and how, it can eventually, probably sooner than you think or over time, elevate you to that next level. Because when he won it, it was still at a time where basically you took the title of the King of the Ring seriously. Like, you looked at that person that won it and said, yeah, that guy's going to be a main event star. There's no doubt. Was there a few hiccups along the way? Absolutely. I mean, Mabel winning King of the Ring, not a good idea, but they went with it. Billy Gunn, winning it, a good idea, but, not a good idea, I should say. Let me correct myself. Billy Gunn, not so much of a good idea, but they still went with it. And the reason they did it is because they were attempting to take the likes of Mabel, Viscera, Big Daddy V, if you will, Nelson Knight, I think, Nelson Frazier, and Billy Gunn, if you will, and they were trying to essentially, elevate them to that main event status. They saw something in them at that time, but they were doing it at a time where basically, despite what the business was, you had bigger stars overlapping them. You had the likes of an Owen Hart overlapping him. You had the likes of, whether or not you want to admit it, you had the likes of a Diesel overlapping him, a Shawn Michaels overlapping him, an Undertaker overlapping him. In 96 when they did that? You had those, well, not 96, 95, yeah. In 1995 when you had that happen, you had the likes, like I said, of an Undertaker, a Shawn Michaels, an Owen Hart, a Bret Hart, a Diesel to an extent and all that, overshadowing Mabel. There was nothing they could do to salvage the guy after he won the King of the Ring, and then basically went on to injure people or come close to ending their careers when they told him to be careful. So they flopped with him. They tried, but they flopped. And that's all. And I say that with all due respect to Nelson Frazier, who, God rest his soul, is, happily, enjoying himself in heaven right now. But the point I'm getting at is the fact that, yeah, there were some hiccups. There were some bumps along the road. Like I said, Billy Gunn, in 1999, Mabel in 1995. Yeah, they had probably good intentions for them, but they were busts. They were King of the Ring busts. Everyone else that came after, came before and after, were gold, or eventually would become gold. I mean, Kurt Angle winning it in 2000, gold, literally. Edge winning it in 2001, eventually, it took time, injuries, neck injuries sustaining, recovering, sustaining and recovering from. Edge eventually, 2001 winning it, bam, instant credibility. It became, in overnight, basically became a bigger star than he already was. And it laid the foundation for him to eventually ascend, which he did. It took time, but that was a proving ground for him, and in my opinion, he passed it to show that he can be a main event guy by winning the King of the Ring in 2001. Brock Lesnar, 2002, the next big thing, King of the Ring, winning that. Not only elevated him to the main event of SummerSlam, but basically positioned him to be what he is today. The Beast Incarnate, the Beast Incarnate, a manster, if you will, as he once called himself, but the Beast Incarnate, basically the King of the Ring, when that title, that tournament is given to a certain individual, it's because the company and those pushing for that person see something in them. And if, Triple H decides, it looks like he's more than willing to bring back King of the Ring next year as its own premium live event in place of Day One, but later on in the year, like maybe before Money in the Bank or something, if they still do Money in the Bank at the pay-per-view, which I think they will, because they need some kind of linchpin unless they decide to make it a WrestleMania exclusive match again, which a lot of people are hoping they would do. And that's still a possibility. But still, if Triple H, and like I said, more than likely looking more so like it's going that direction, brings back King of the Ring, he's going to have he's going to have his own pick of the freaking litter when it comes to this tournament. He's going to have his pick of the litter of who he and his crew, along with the fans, by extension, are going to want to crown as the 2023 King of the Ring, and maybe add in the stipulation that they, along with the Money in the Bank winner, will get a shot, at the WWE or at the championship of their choosing, whether they keep the championships separate or make them separate again, or they keep them as one. If he adds in that stipulation that the winner gets a shot at the championship of their choosing, along with the Money in the Bank winner, whether or not the MITB winner, wins it at WrestleMania or at the event of said name, it is going to be an intriguing year, to keep an eye on whoever is holding the undisputed title, or who individually is holding the WWE and Universal titles, as you go throughout the rest of 2023, after the summer of 2023. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on during the summer and even afterwards. And again, Triple H is going to have his pick of the litter with the King of the Ring field, and again, who he'd want to crown, and by extension, who he believes and knows the fans want to see crowned in that position. Now, the question is, along with the King of the Ring, would they also once again bring back Queen of the Ring? That I'm not too sure of. I think Queen of the Ring had its opportunity, but I don't know. I mean, I could see them trying to bring it back, maybe having it run, on the same night. Basically, you have a certain amount of, like maybe for the King of the Ring tournament and the Queen of the Ring tournament, if you want to run them side by side on the same night of the same under the King of the Ring name, premium live event name, that's fine. And if you want to do the qualifying matches, like the first round matches, and maybe even the quarterfinal matches, on Raw and SmackDown, that's good too. Heck, if you want to include NXT in there, go ahead. That's fine. That's an added bonus. And by then, NXT should be, maybe, up to par, or at least close to it, to where people like JD from NY206 and Just Alex won't be, passing on it anymore, and they'll give it more of a chance. So yeah, if you want to add in the Queen of the Ring concept, but do it more correctly and more respectfully, then yeah, I could see them doing first round and quarterfinal matches on Raw, weekly on Raw, SmackDown, and maybe even NXT to an extent, and then having the semifinals for both brackets. Then having basically the semifinals, as they say, and finals of both brackets on the pay-per-view, along with maybe a championship match for the Raw women, for the Raw or SmackDown women's titles, maybe both, as well as maybe the WWE Championship. Who knows? But I could see that. I could see basically 4 semifinal matches, 2 for the women, 2 for the men. That makes 4 matches. I could see 4 semifinal matches, 2 for the women, 2 for the men. I could see the finals, that would make 6 matches. And then you add in maybe a bonus championship match for the Raw, for maybe one of the women's titles, and maybe you add in the bonus for, of a championship match for either the WWE Championship, Universal Championship, or even the Undisputed title, to kind of play into the significance of how important the tournament or tournaments will be for the winners, whoever comes out on top, because they could potentially not only become that year's King and Queen of the Ring, but they could potentially get a shot at whoever walks out of the championship matches that night with the titles, down the line, like at SummerSlam or something. You basically make, the main event for both the men and the women at SummerSlam, the featured matchups, more important by not just having the semifinals and finals matches at King of the Ring, but you also have, potentially 2 championship matches happening, and whoever you book to win those basically be on the radar of the 2023 Queen and King of the Rings. So, to me, I think Triple H, is up to snuff to do it. I think he's willing to do it. I think there's nothing that will stop him from potentially bringing back King of the Ring. And again, if he wants to add in the Queen aspect of it, that's fine too. Knowing Triple H, he'll try to make sure this time it's treated with more respect and dignity than the last time, and given more time. And that if he has to, and that if, he does include it, the semifinals that is, and the finals of that tournament, along with the men's at the event of the same name of King of the Ring, that's an added bonus. And an additional cherry on top of that, like I said, is having, one of the women's championships on the line, and maybe one of the main championships, WWE or Universal, or if you want to keep it undisputed, on the line as well, because then you not only clarify how important winning the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments are for the winners, but potentially you're featuring who they could face at So yeah, again, I have nothing against seeing a King of the Ring tournament come back as a premium live event. I have nothing against potentially them adding the Queen of the Ring in there as an added bonus, and rectifying what happened last year with it, and but giving both tournaments some kind of importance as to why why it's a priority, why it's the number one priority and goal for any of the participants in it to win, because the winners would get a shot at their at their brand's championships, depending on the championship situation at that time. But again, I'm happy that he's bringing it back. I'm happy he's taking a chance on it, and I can't wait to see what he has planned in the future for the event moving forward. But we'll see what happens. It could come back as a main roster premium live event, or it could come back as an NXT one. We don't know, but it's good to see it as it's coming back in some capacity. And obviously, it looks like it's going to replace not Money Back, but Day One, as one of the premium live events on the calendar. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, overall. How do you feel about, Montreal getting an Elimination Chamber next year? How do you think, potentially, if not obviously, they got to play in with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being from there? And how can they play around with that, fit that in, that scenario? Also, let me know what your thoughts are on King of the Ring. How do you feel about that potentially coming back as a premium live event, and potentially adding in, if they wanted to rectify what happened last year, the Queen of the Ring, but do it with more dignity and respect? Let me know down below in the comment section. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chat, super stickers are open during the live chat. Super thanks afterwards. Check me out at Venmo, at Brian-Warmer-2, and at Cash App at BWRosa98. I could really use the help, guys. I'm telling you, honestly, I can. ASAP. But let me know what your thoughts are, though, guys. And again, check me out at those places, Venmo and Cash App. Also, check me out at BWRosa Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also at DeviantArt.com, so that's BVW1979, and my Teespring store as well, for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you won't get here on YouTube. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are on all this, and until then, I will talk to y'all later.